So we're live.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back to the
Welcome.
Electives Podcast. We got some good stuff for you today. We are going to discuss a couple different topics, but ultimately it's going to be surrounded around modern day relationships
Mm,
versus old school traditional relationships and the dynamics that maybe our either parents or grandparents had within their relationship and how it compares to our relationships today.
yeah, how
Um,
that's changed.
mm-hmm.
And man, I'm super excited about this topic because prior to us getting down to the studio area as we
Uh-huh.
call it, um, we just had a good conversation about it.
We did, man. We did, and your lovely wife, man, she really gave us some good insight from the female perspective
Yep.
on what it's like to, obviously be a wife and be a mother in today's society. She was also a woman who she went to school,
Yep.
right? She's educated, but there came a point in your guys' relationship where you had to make a choice, right? Once you had kids, that hey, um, even though you have this career, even though you have these goals, we're gonna have to we're gonna have to make some sacrifices here somewhere in order
Yep.
to raise the kids the way that we want to raise them, and in order for us to get to where we have to be.
Right.
And one of the really, I there were a few things, man, that she said to me that really stuck out. But one of them being when she brought up that she had to. There came a point where she had to take a step back and believe in you and what you were saying, and just give you, in a sense, full control,
Right.
right? And how difficult that is for modern women to do, because we live in a society where most men um, don't harness that space for women where they can feel comfortable enough or even be willing enough to want to give up full control. Now, when I say full control, I don't mean like in an abusive relationship kind of control. We're
Right.
talking about a healthy dynamic where, as men, we hold ourselves a certain way. We try to carry ourselves a certain way in life and in society. And you want to create that space for your woman where she can feel safe, not just safe of being protected, but safe mentally, safe emotionally, and I would really love to hear your perspective as a husband and as a father on how you created that space for your wife and what you were thinking when you did that.
Man, I think I was too young to even know what
To
the hell
even
I was doing. I think that's kind of another thing in life is your life experience and your age. So uh, it's hard to create something without a plan
Mhm.
or any direction.
Mhm.
But for me, it was just like I don't know what I'm doing, but I know like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
So I know I'm gonna get there.
Yeah.
But the issue was learning all the hiccups along the way. So when I was in that space, man, it was probably not the best space I was in
Mhm.
because there was a bunch of other distractions going on. But um, reaching towards the end,
Mhm.
it's like, okay, if only I knew what I knew now. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
I could
Right.
go
Right.
back and probably do it better.
Oh yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
um, yeah, at the end of the day, obviously that worked out. Uh, you know, just kind of making that leap. It was almost like a leap of faith. Like
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
let's just make this jump.
Mhm. What
And go from there.
Well, what I was going to say too is, have you found that in life in general, um, you have to. Everybody knows you have to take risks, right?
Right.
And if you're going to take risks, do your best to try and take a calculated risk. I mean, really think it out. But at
Right.
the end of the day, even though you can sit there and analyze all you want,
Hmm.
you still have to jump off the cliff and
Right.
learn how to fly, right? And hope that your parachute either opens or that you learn how to fly on the way down.
Right. Right. Right.
But having that faith as men, right?
Yeah.
As we're talking about modern day women and traditional relationships
Yep.
versus in that whole dynamic. As modern men, we also have to hold ourselves to a different standard now going forward, right?
Right.
Where you do have that faith
Yeah.
in yourself as a man to know that no matter what happens, I'm
Right.
gonna figure this out.
Right.
I'm going to. I don't have. There's not a doubt in my mind that this isn't gonna work or that this isn't gonna work itself out.
Right. And
And
I think that's what's missing though. The in today's world,
yeah,
um, like I would say for me, I've gotten a lot of my hustle and grind from seeing like my grandpa, seeing
mm-hmm,
my uncle,
mm-hmm,
seeing my dad,
mm-hmm,
seeing my mom, even though she's
yeah,
not a man,
yeah.
she had a man's
Oh
grind though.
yeah, oh
She's
yeah, yeah.
just a
Go getter.
hustler, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
um for me, I was able to take all that information and kind of pick and choose what I wanted to I want to take this from my mom. I want to take this from my dad. I want to take this from my grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
And then even at the on the flip side, take in the stuff I don't like.
Right.
That doesn't apply to me because
Yeah.
it's a different, I'm a different human.
Mm-hmm.
They had different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is missing from today's modern day man, which I think is affecting the modern day woman, or
It is.
turning the modern day woman into what it is now, because the males are missing what they used to have.
True.
You
Very true.
know, I,
Very true. I agree.
yeah,
Yeah. Men used to have more of a backbone.
yeah,
Men used to be more reliable. You know.
yes,
And I think that even me, man, at 31, I'm like, and we've talked about this before, but I feel like for us as men, man, you really start coming into your own in your 30s, closer to your
30s,
late 20s, 30s, man. You really
yeah,
start honing in. Life slows down, right?
right,
You start realizing that, hey, in order for me to be a good man,
yeah,
I have to be reliable. I have to
yeah,
be trustworthy. I have to have all these things that at one point maybe weren't really that important to me.
right. You got to have these skills.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And you're 100% right, man. I definitely agree with you. I feel like a lot of men don't really understand that right
No,
now.
and it starts at the younger level.
It does.
So there's a lot, like when we were growing up, I feel like there was less distractions, less, less, yeah, we'll just call it less distractions on what you're supposed to be. I think it's ultimately hurt the younger male. So as they grow up, they don't really know how to be, you
True.
know, and they don't know what skills they're supposed to have. So then the women have picked them up,
Mm-hmm.
and because
Yep.
women are just smarter
Yep.
than men. So now
Yep.
they've just picked them up, and they're like, man, I don't need you no more.
Yeah.
But there's an effect. There's a cost for that.
There's always cause and effect. Yep. There's always cause and effect because. I mean, ultimately, and this is something that we discussed briefly before, before we shot the podcast, was how important it is to have a positive male role model or father in the
Yep.
household, right?
Yep.
And obviously, we know things happen. We know that not every relationship is gonna last. Sometimes when you bring kids into this world, you were young, you didn't know any better, but nonetheless, the kids are still here, right? And we're not saying to just go out there and find somebody just for the sake of finding somebody.
Right.
No, but if you're not single, but if you're a father who is now by himself and has children, and if you're a mother who's by herself and has children, you should go out and try and find the opposite of what you're missing in that relationship, which is
Right.
if you're a man, go out and find a woman that can be feminine. If you have daughters, especially, because there's gonna come a point where, as a man, you cannot teach your daughter everything on being a woman. You can only give her, a quick breakdown of
Right.
of your own experiences, whether you have sisters or your mom or whatever it is. But there's gonna come a point where you need a woman around, and for young men need positive men around them,
Right.
men that can show them how to handle responsibility, how to be grounded, how to have mental and emotional maturity,
Right.
because that is something that really is missing. And that is one of the reasons why society's all messed up and all jacked up, because there's no balance, right? There's no
Right.
balance between the masculine and the feminine anymore.
Yeah.
It's just women. And it's not that women can't be independent. It's not that women can't make their own money. It's not that women can't go out and have fun. I'm not saying that women can't do that. I'm saying that if you're a young lady in your 20s, whether you have children or not, and that's the lifestyle that you're going for, there's going to come a point where there's cause and effect with that. You know, if you're constantly wanting to chase the corporate ladder, and then you realize in your 30s, especially women that don't have kids, if you realize in your 30s all of a sudden you want a family, well, now it's going to be really tough. It's going to be really
Yeah,
tough for you to
yeah.
start a family in your 30s when you have this corporate job that's expecting so much of you. You
Right.
know, like your wife talked about. She said,
Right.
realistically, she could go for the another $20,000 and
Yeah.
get a higher position. But is it worth it?
Right.
Is the money worth it for her to jump up that corporate ladder?
Right.
It's not, because her
Right.
time is more valuable. Her freedom is more valuable. She's in a position now where she can go pick up the kids if she needs to go pick up the kids, or if you need something done, or whatever the case is, she can do it for her
Right.
family. And that is more valuable
Right.
than anything, than any amount of money.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
I think that modern women, some of them have fallen in love with chasing the bag, or chasing
Yep.
the status, or chasing the money, which was naturally more of a masculine
Right.
trait,
Yeah.
you know. And it's not saying that means that women are trying to be men. It's not. I'm not necessarily saying that. It's just that's just where we got to. And you know, I know I'm kind of going on a little tangent here, but the reason why I think women got to that point in that position falls back on men, right? I believe in holding both parties accountable, men and women. I think there were a lot of traditional old school men that didn't appreciate their wives and didn't appreciate the children, or the mothers of their children, for years. And now, right, and I said this to you jokingly, I'm like, you know, if you had to take care of your girls by yourself, and all of a sudden your girl said, hey, I'm going to work, I'm doing this,
I'd be in trouble.
you'd be in trouble, man. You throw your hands up in the
Right.
air like,
Oh,
what am
oh,
I gonna
okay.
do, and when is she coming back? And
Right.
I don't know what to do with these kids.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. When you first started talking about it, it brings me back to Boys in the Hood. You remember that scene
Yeah.
where the mom meets with the dad
Uh-huh.
and says he needs his daddy.
Yeah.
I can't show him how to be a man.
Yes.
And
yeah. Yeah.
it's like, it's crazy because it's even in the movies back then. Like, that's
Yeah.
what we used to watch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and you know that movie. I mean, if you haven't seen Boys in the Hood, which
It's
I'm
a
sure
classic.
everybody our age has.
Yeah, everybody
but,
already
but younger
has. Maybe-
generations, I mean, if you got to go see Boys in the Hood,
Yeah.
they got some stuff in there. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just that's what's missing. So naturally, a woman has to pick
Fill
it up.
that role.
You know, now you
Yeah.
got women teaching boys how to be men,
Mm-hmm.
and they just can't.
No, it's true.
We can't. Just like I couldn't teach my daughters how to be a woman.
Yep.
They're gonna end up carrying on a man's traits because
Right.
they've always been with their daddy.
Right.
Then they just know how to act like their dad,
Yep.
and
Yep.
that's kind of dangerous in the long run.
Yep. And you want to know something interesting too, that like I wonder, because I've tried to, I really enjoy studying human behavior and human nature. Something that I thought about recently was that I wonder if in a household, right? Let's say it's all women in a household. I wonder if nature has a way of always balancing the energy out. So if there's too many women in a household, one of those women is going to take on a masculine energy and a masculine trait, because there needs to be balance,
Right.
right? And the reason why I bring that up is because I can think of friends, I can think of past relationships where the women were raised by single mothers, right? And without the single mom wanting to, they pushed on to their daughters to be too independent, to not need a man,
Right.
right? Which develops this masculine mindset,
Right. The
Right?
modern day woman.
right?
Yeah.
And then now you're pushing her out there in society,
Right.
and she's got all this masculine energy, but then when she meets a masculine man, they clash,
Right.
right? Unless it's a masculine man that she really respects,
Right.
and that she feels like she can kind of soften up to, you know, become a
Like
little
you,
more.
like you got me.
Yeah, you know, because I've seen that too. I think that, I'm not saying that a woman that is a go getter, or that, you know, has all this drive and ambition, can't find love, you know. She
No,
can
yeah, they
find it.
can. Yeah, she could find it.
She can find it. It's just gonna be a very specific kind of guy, you know.
And yeah, there's gonna be stuff missing from there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because I just ultimately think it comes and falls back on us, because if we're not taking the time to grow like our mindset, have bigger dreams and goals, you know what I'm saying, and actually have the drive to go get it. Because you can't just be a dreamer, you know.
Right.
Like,
Right.
what's his name? Um, why can't I think of his name?
Who is it? A musician or?
No, he makes films. The one who makes Medea,
Oh, Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry.
Yeah,
He puts good stuff in his movies.
he does. A
You know,
lot of
like that.
gems.
Yeah, a lot of gems. So you know that I think it was how to was it Think Like a Man?
Yeah,
Think
think
Like a
like a man.
Man.
Yeah.
You know, you had the dude who was the dreamer,
Oh yeah.
and then he
Yeah.
met that. I mean, she's essentially like the modern day woman,
Right.
who
Yeah.
he met,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and she. But the effect was she ultimately pushed him
Right.
to make his dreams come true. He was no
Right.
longer a dreamer.
Right.
So I
Right.
think
Right.
that showed like, yeah, if you're a modern day woman, you can do it, but you're gonna have a project.
Yep.
You're almost like an investor. You know, you're gonna
Exactly.
have a project. So are you willing to do a project?
Yeah.
And if you're not, then yeah, then you have the flip side, which was the guy. He was, I mean, a multimillionaire CEO,
Mhm.
but she couldn't even get a word in
Right.
because he's the man.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And then
Yeah.
him, he did. I mean, in the movie, you see like he doesn't even have the awareness of what he's doing.
Right.
He didn't even know he was like she didn't say a word. He was just too
Right.
busy in his own
In his
world,
own world. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
which is comes back to us because that's our fault.
It is. No, it is.
You know, so
And yeah, and to be a this term gets thrown around a lot right now in society. Is like alpha, right?
yeah.
Alpha and beta and sigma and omega and all.
I don't
of
even
these
know what the
things.
other ones mean.
They,
To be honest.
yeah. Well, ultimately, like alpha is right, the leader of the pack, the leader
I got
of their
that one.
group, right?
Yep.
And I think that it's kind of been tainted a little bit, right? Because of
Yeah.
the society that we live in.
Right.
To me, an alpha isn't somebody who's loud and braggadocious,
Nah.
you know? Nah, because usually the loudest one in the room is what? The weakest,
Right.
right?
Frank
So,
Lucas.
yeah. So it's about the way that you carry yourself, and then it's about the way that you interact in every space that you're in. You
Right.
know, to me, an alpha is someone who's always observing and paying attention to what's going on, and being calm and being grounded and being ready for almost anything. You
Right.
know, not necessarily. I'm not talking about from a violence perspective, but just anything in general. Right.
Right.
You have to have your emotions in check. Because hey, maybe your girlfriend or your wife is going through something,
Right.
you know, and you need to be able to ground that energy out and do it in a way where you don't make her feel bad for having these ups and downs or roller coasters of emotion. Where you
Right.
can look her in the eye and tell her, baby, it's gonna be okay. It's
Right.
gonna be all right, and she can genuinely feel and trust and know that he's right. It is gonna be okay.
Right.
It is gonna be all right.
Right.
Your kids, the way children react to an alpha says a lot. Because children naturally want to, you see it in nature. Even if it's not that, well, usually, like if it's lions or something, like they're all his cubs, but the children will always naturally gravitate towards the alpha because they
Right.
feel safe.
Right.
That says a lot. An alpha creates a space of safety,
Right.
not just physically, but mentally and emotionally.
Right.
So if you notice a man that has these traits and these qualities, he doesn't even have to say that he's an alpha. You know
Right.
it
So-
because he's always looking
So
out
let me
for
ask you
everybody.
this:
Mhm.
if you got somebody wanting to become that, because
Mhm.
we're not all that. I mean, sometimes we're born into it,
Right.
but it takes you have to learn how to be that way. You have to develop these
Yes.
skills. So what would you
Yes.
say? How would you go about doing that?
Um, I think like anything in life, you have to find a teacher, right?
Mhm.
You have to find someone else who's already doing it, and then go learn and study from them. So for myself, I was very fortunate to be around my grandfather, right? When I was younger. I was around him a lot. And then when I think back to it, you know, my dad, there came a point where he was working a lot because he was trying to provide for the family, which is perfectly normal. My mom was trying to, you know, start her own business. She was always a hustler too. And so we were raised by our grandparents a lot. And my grandfather had a very interesting upbringing because he had to, at a very young age, I believe he was, excuse me, I believe he was, I want to say in his late teens when he lost his father,
That's
right?
rough.
And comes from a old southern town in Mississippi where there wasn't a lot of jobs, there wasn't a lot of opportunity. So now
Hmm.
you have this young teenage boy who now is responsible for taking care of his mom. One of his sisters had a disability, and another one of his sisters who just, life wasn't going right for her at the time.
Right.
Plus, he was married to my grandmother, and she had two children before him,
Right.
plus his kids. So now he's responsible for way more people than he ever thought he would initially be responsible for, right?
Yeah, that's tough.
Now, he didn't have, what I'll say is, I mean, when he lost his father, all this stuff didn't happen at the same time. But in his 20s, all of this stuff kind of came together, right?
Yeah.
And as the leader of the household, he had to figure it out. He had to figure out how to pay for two households, keep money up because they moved up here. He had to pay for the house and make sure the family was good up here, but then also send money back down south and make sure the family down there was okay, all while trying to stay sane and raise a family.
Right.
You got to be a certain kind of man to do anything close to that.
But if
You
you
know?
break that down, what would
Mm-hmm.
you say? Because now we have information at the tips of our fingers.
Break it
Where
down.
your
The
grandparent or your grandpa didn't. But
right,
if you were to
true,
break down what he has now, how would you? Because people could probably learn what your grandpa did.
true,
I
true,
mean,
true, true.
obviously, a lot of it comes within too. You have to, and up here in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
But how would you break that down?
I would say you have to learn. First off, you have to learn how to slow down as a man. Because everything now is instant gratification. Everything is boom, 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 boom. Everybody wants everything right now. But if you can learn how to slow down and in the process of slowing down, learn to look at yourself first before you look at anybody else, right? Work on what you need to work on. If you can look in the mirror and say, I've got it all figured out, you messed up somewhere.
Yeah,
You,
that's
you, you messed up somewhere. So slowing down, staring in the mirror, and saying, "What do I need to improve upon as a man?" Right? What do I
right.
feel like I'm lacking? Holding yourself to a certain level of accountability first, I think, is the first step in becoming an
An
alpha.
alpha.
And going down that route. Um, but then, yes, getting around teachers and men that are already doing it and just learning and observing. You
Yep.
know, and you can't learn anything if you're constantly trying to um, interject or
Right.
get the attention or the spotlight on you. You know, what would you say would be a something that what a young man should learn on his path to understanding what it means to be an alpha, or the leader of his household or his community?
So I would say the new I started read. Well, I told you I'm reading a book a month, so I
Mm-hmm.
read one already. So now the
Nice.
second one, it has a good quote in there. It says in in um in every man they are superior,
Mm.
and that I learn of him.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think that I wish I knew this stuff when I was growing up because I know I
Yeah.
was a little a hole when I
Right.
was growing up.
Right.
So now I think if you take on that, even just that, um, you'll learn so much because you'll learn to talk less. So a lot of our issue is which was my issues too, was we talk too much
Mm-hmm.
about stuff we don't really know.
True.
It's just a matter of trying to be like, I'm I'm the guy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
Yeah.
the guy. You're not.
Yeah.
But if you really sit back and just take in those two things,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that could set you up for a huge like you're talking. You'll be light years ahead of people.
You will.
Light years ahead of people.
Yeah.
So if I would have learned this when I was like 15, just
Mm-hmm.
to shut up and learn from whoever it is,
Yep.
because it doesn't matter. You're gonna learn something from everybody because of like the experiences. You don't know how they live, so you can't really think that you're on top of the world.
Right. And that you've got
Because
it all figured out.
yep, just like you said, because then you don't learn anything.
Yeah.
So I would say I'm 32 and I just learned that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think taking on that, I think you'll be setting yourself up fine, and then just applying. whatever it is that you learn towards whatever it is you want to do,
Mhm.
it'll just, kind of compound
Mhm.
and turn you into this person you probably never even thought
True.
you could get to.
Very true. Very true. Um, and then I also believe that, to add to that, um, you have to understand that there's a huge level of responsibility that comes with being the leader. You're not always going to make the right decision or the right choice.
Right.
And so I think along the journey of learning how to handle that pressure and handle that responsibility, you have to mess up.
Right.
You have to make mistakes, right? And what you do after you make those mistakes and after you mess up shows your character. Because I'm sure, like for you with your family, there's been times, man, where maybe your wife asked you, "Hey, what do you think we should do?" And you said, "I think we should go. Let's just say left, right?"
Right.
And you guys go left, but left wasn't a good idea.
Right.
And now what do? Right? As the leader of your household and things don't go right, do you tuck your tail and hide and run away and say, "Oh, I don't know what to do anymore, babe. You handle it." And you take your hands off the steering wheel
Right.
and crash and burn. No. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
No, you say to yourself, "Hey, you know what? I'm a man. I made the wrong decision. That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get this shit back on course."
Right.
And you look at your wife and you look at your kids and you say, "Hey, look, dad made the wrong decision, but that's okay.
Right.
This is a part of life." You
Yeah.
know, and you're also teaching your children it's okay to mess up
Right.
and that you're human.
Right.
Because if you that's another trait that we as a society, man, we got to get rid of this idea that everybody's perfect or that you have to come off as perfect.
Right.
Like if you make the mistake and you don't admit to your kids, you don't admit to your wife that you made a bad decision, well, now they're not really they're gonna sense that. They can
Right.
sense that, like, no, dad, you fucked up.
You messed up.
You messed
Right.
up, man. But it's
Right.
cool if you want to believe that you didn't. That's
Right.
fine. But we all
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and that's not the kind of integrity you want to have as a man.
Right.
You want to you want to live honest and true in all of your masculinity,
Right.
the good decisions and the bad.
Right.
And that's tough to learn, man. All these things that we're discussing, man, are really things that you just gain with life experience.
Right.
So we implore our young men to go out and make mistakes and fail and just learn from your mistakes and catch yourself, right?
Right.
Know you messed up, but then catch yourself and say, okay, I won't do this again, or if I do this again, I'll know that I should act this way or respond this way next time.
Right. Yeah. So to add to that, what I would say is, I've learned. This is another thing I've learned at an older age, is which is affecting the which, or I guess is the difference between the modern day relationship, the modern day woman, the modern day man, is, yes, men lead,
Mm-hmm.
but the women direct.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, that's very well put.
that is also an alpha or a man trait that we should take on that we all don't have, because naturally when we think of leader, you're supposed to make all the decisions. You're supposed to, everybody does what you say.
Right.
But not to get too biblical or anything. So there's this guy I follow on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a Christian artist.
Mm-hmm.
But he brought up that topic,
Mm.
like men lead but women direct. So to what you were saying, let's go left, it didn't work out. What I would say, keeping that in mind, is it didn't work out because you probably didn't ask your woman,
Yeah.
what do you think?
True.
You know what I'm saying? So
True. Yeah.
which is all part
'Cause
of life experience
It is.
and learning.
It is. Yeah,
You
it
got
is.
the women traditionally have always been the backbone of any family. That's just how it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, because if you look at families, they always call the mom the rock,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's been lost between the modern day relationship and the traditional one. Now, who is the rock?
Yeah.
Who's leading? Who's directing?
True.
You know what I'm saying? We're
True.
men. We're dumb. That's
True.
just how we are. We're just
Yeah.
wired that way.
Yeah.
So
Or at least
So,
that's or that could be what society wants us to think,
well,
right?
true, but I'm
Yeah.
saying when it comes to, you know, like making certain decisions,
Yeah.
men just tend
Yeah.
to, we just kind of we get cloudy
Yeah.
judgment sometimes.
True.
That's how it is.
True.
But a woman is usually, they do react on emotions,
True.
but they also have that
Intuition.
intuit that we don't
Yeah.
have.
No, that's
So
true. That's very true. And I think that we should acknowledge that, right?
yeah,
As one of the beautiful things about, because even though we're talking about modern day relationships and traditional relationships, we fully understand that we need each other, right? Like the
right,
conversation, us having this conversation is about how can men be better and how can women be better
right,
and how can we work together to get to where we want to be.
right,
Because ultimately, the survival of the species is what's most important.
right,
And the only way we're going to continue down that road of evolving and growing is if we work together. And so, women do have a natural intuition that far supersedes what a man can. Like
yeah,
you ever take your girl somewhere and she be like, "Oh, I don't like that person," or "Oh, I don't like that girl," and you're like, "Why?"
yeah,
You don't even know, and it's like there's something in her
right,
intuition that's throwing her off, right? Where that
right,
woman could be a potential threat, or that guy could be a potential threat.
right,
But what I will say is, not every woman is aware of it, that she
right,
has that. You know what I mean? So as a man, you have to make sure you choose a really good woman that has that natural intuition that you can bring up and say to her, should we go left or should we go right?
right,
And she's going to answer because she knows it's going to be what's best for you guys. Not what's best
right,
for her and her
right,
own selfishness, you know what I mean?
right,
Or what she's trying to manipulate, or how she may be trying to manipulate the situation, and vice versa,
right,
right? But you have to choose the right kind of woman in order
right,
to feel like you can even go to her and ask her and get her opinion, you
right,
know? And that's that, because you don't want to ask the wrong woman. You don't want to ask, no disrespect or anything like that. I don't want to throw names out there or anything like that, but some of these female rappers, you wouldn't want to ask them for direction and leadership
right. Well,
on
yeah,
certain things, you know what I mean?
yeah. But I just think it's, for me, it like comes back to, um, the man has a role,
Mm-hmm.
and the female has a role.
Mm-hmm.
And when them roles get twisted or whatever,
Yeah,
then
it's
I think that's when the plane starts coming crashing down.
no, it's true. Yeah, because you can't have two people driving.
Nah.
You know what I mean? At the same time, it just doesn't work. And even and this was something we discussed about before the podcast. Like currently, my girlfriend right now makes more money than me. Right
Mm,
now, for a lot of men, that may make them insecure. Right,
right.
that may cause them to act out in ways that they aren't even aware of because they feel inferior. You
Right.
know, but my response to that is number one, I didn't think I would ever be in a situation where the woman that I was with was making more money than me,
Right.
right? But it's a situation now I find myself in. And at the same time, I think where men that are confident in themselves,
Right.
right, understand this is just where we're at right now.
Right.
Now I know where we're headed, and I know that one day I'll be making either equally or just as much money than her,
Right.
or more money than her,
Right.
and I'm okay with that.
Right.
Her success doesn't intimidate me at all. It doesn't make me run away. It doesn't make me shy away from her and what she's been able to achieve, right?
Right.
And even in our, relationship, there are times where I can sense her masculine energy going up.
Yeah.
And I either have one of two choices. Either I tuck my tail between my legs and
Right.
I go and hide in the corner,
Right.
right? Like some men do,
Right.
or I meet her, right?
Right.
With my own masculinity, with my own energy, and I reassure her and remind her, hey, look,
Right.
I get it, but you got to bring that down
Yeah.
because it's not healthy for both of us.
Right.
You should be naturally more in your feminine, and I should be naturally more in my masculine.
Right.
Now, that also doesn't mean, because I think that sometimes, man, we have to break these things down and remind people.
Right.
I don't mean feminine means weak or masculine means strong.
No.
And I'm not saying that being feminine means that you don't have a voice and that masculine means everything you say goes. No, but it goes back to what you were saying about a woman being the backbone and a man being able to say, hey, I think this is the best direction we should go in. What do you think?
Or how do you feel?
Or how do you feel? Yeah,
Right.
because all of those things, man. I mean, relationships, man, and life as a whole is really a day-to-day thing. I
Yep.
mean, you have to be present in it on a daily basis. Otherwise, you're kind of missing the point of life,
Right.
you know? And these relationship things and these modern day relationships aren't easy concepts to grasp. They're not easy
Right.
concepts to understand. But if we want to have a successful future and if we want to rebuild the family unit in this country,
Right.
we got to have tough conversations like
Oh
this,
yeah.
you know?
And I think it ultimately falls on us.
It
Um,
does.
and the reason why I feel that way is because my mom was there for me a lot. My dad was too.
Hmm.
Um, but like there was just certain. I just felt like I was always around my mom.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
and I saw my dad out there, grinding and stuff like that. So like for me, it's just like that's our job. Like, you know what I'm
Yep.
saying? If you want shit to get easy for you,
Yeah.
if you want your girl or, women in general to just be like, okay, you got it and not have a whole lot of like back and forth, then you just got to go out there and get it because at the end of the day, that's all that's what our job is. You
It
know what I'm
is.
saying?
Yeah.
And then just to make sure you're getting yourself better at the same time.
Yep.
And then if your woman's out there grinding, hustling, then let her go do her thing. But at the end of the day, just like if you gotta go out that door in the blizzard to go get something,
It's gonna be us going.
it's gonna be me going.
Yep.
You ain't
Yeah.
gotta worry about it. And I
Yeah.
think in times like today, men are like, man, I don't feel like going. You go.
Yeah. Yeah. You want equality, right?
Yeah, you want equality, you go.
You
And
want
I and I don't think that's what women meant when they
no.
wanted equality.
No,
I
no, no,
think
no, no.
and I think we took it as, all right, well, go ahead and do it then.
So I think some women, right? Some modern women do take it that way. That they can do everything that a man can do.
Right,
But when it comes down to it, when
right,
shit hits the fan,
right,
when that blizzard comes, when that storm comes, when what that war happens,
right.
women are like, "Hey, look,
I'm straight.
I'd much rather just be a woman right now and not have to, go out on the front line and not have to go out in that blizzard."
Right,
But you're 1,000% right. There are a lot of men that are running from the responsibility of it. And I know if I'm being completely honest, going back to what we were talking about, you have to grow into these things. You
yeah,
have to grow into this space as a man. One of the reasons why I think you were able to do it naturally and at a faster pace than, let's just say, someone like myself is because you had a family as young as you did. When you have a family, when you bring children into this world, something happens. One of two things happen on a biological
right,
level. I'm sorry. Either your DNA activates and you say to yourself, okay, I have to be a father now.
right,
I got to step it up.
right,
I got life dependent on me now. I got a
right,
wife. I got two kids. I can't drop the ball. Every now and then
right,
I may slip, but I'll catch it. You know what I mean? But I can't let it hit the floor.
right,
I can't. I just can't. And you make a pact with yourself. You make a promise to yourself, right?
right,
Or you could have said, "Man, you know what? Forget this, man. I'm out. I can't handle the
right,
stress. I can't handle the responsibility. I can't handle my wife. I can't handle my kids. I'm just throwing my hands up in the air and running from this."
right,
Which I'm not saying if a man does that he's the worst person ever. But I'm saying what I am saying though is that he maybe doesn't have the mental fortitude to
right,
understand that that is what life's about, man. Life isn't for us as men. Life isn't about
right.
what we want all the time. It's not
No,
about how we feel
right,
all the time. It has everything to do with what are your responsibilities
right,
and how are you going to wake up on a daily basis, walk outside your house, put your armor on and go to
right,
war for yourself and your family.
right. I
You
agree with that, man. I agree with that fully. Yeah, because I think if you've had kids at a young age, I recently met a guy when I was at work,
know?
and I was just looking at him. I'm like, man, I'm old, because I'm 30, I'm
Yeah.
32, but he was me
Yeah.
at 20. He's 21,
Oh wow. Yeah, he's a
so
young
he
buck.
he had one kid, and he's with his girl. They're
Hmm.
living in an apartment, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, man, that's literally where I was.
Yeah.
And then we just talked it out a little bit, exchanged info, and then I just hit him up and I told him like, man, if you need anything,
Just reach out.
just reach out at no cost
Yep.
because I think that's also our job as men is like people are in the situations we were in the past, and if you did learn from it, then it's time to teach what you learn.
It is.
So at that time, like if I ever get to that conversation with him, I went and started looking for how to like grow.
Mm-hmm.
My shot was I want to make like millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have a big house for my family, and I want to drive a nice car.
Right.
That was the shot. I was like, and at the time I was making like $11 an hour. So I don't know how
I don't know how I'm gonna do
I
it,
don't know how this was
but
gonna
I'm
work.
gonna do it.
But I was on a computer. I was meeting people on a computer,
Yeah.
and then that's when like self development came up
Mm-hmm.
back then in what was it 2012.
Yeah, I'd say that's when it. Yeah.
That's when I started learning it.
Okay. Cool.
And then from there, I was just like, all right, I don't know what this dude's saying, but whatever, I'm gonna do it because I don't really got nothing else.
Right.
And then eventually, I start looking back 10 years ago. I'm like, shit, I go back to my grandma's house. And I'm like, this is where I lived.
Yeah.
This is
man.
where I was at.
Yep.
So I think if, for all the young men out there, like you have to be constantly growing every year
Mm-hmm.
and think of it as a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Think of it as Alex Harmozy says. He says think in decades, not years or months.
It's true.
Think in decades. So, and I wasn't thinking in decades back then because I didn't know that
You
concept.
didn't know. Yeah, you didn't
But
know.
now, like, I'm I'm not thinking about next year. I'm thinking about 42.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I'm like,
Mhm.
man, 42 is probably gonna be 42 is gonna be something else.
Oh yeah.
If I stay here,
Oh yeah.
42 might
Yeah.
be
You
something
couldn't
crazy.
Even, yeah, you can't even. We can fathom it a little bit,
Right.
but I mean, it'll be a whole other thing to experience it.
Right.
And to piggyback off of what you just said, also, man. One thing I've learned on my journey, and I'm sure you've seen this happen with yourself, like you just talked about with the young man who's 21.
Yeah.
He comes up to you. People naturally gravitate towards you without even wanting to or
Right.
trying to, because it's almost like you're a black hole of wisdom and knowledge from
Right.
your own life experiences, right? And sometimes, at least for me, like in my job and in my profession, man, I have so many young men and even older men that come to me and they're not even trying to, they just open up. They just start
Yep.
talking about their life. They just start talking about their problems. They start talking about their relationships, because ultimately every man needs somebody to talk
Yep.
to get this stuff out and to ask these questions, because you don't know.
Right.
You don't know.
Right.
You may not have had life experience in certain areas. And so
Right.
you're hoping that that a man that you naturally gravitate towards or you feel like you can learn something from
Right.
will have the time and the patience and the wisdom to be able to be like, okay, here's what you need, young man.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to plant this little seed in you now, and I'm
Right.
going to water it, and I'm going to see if it grows into something. And I'm going
Right.
to see if you grow into something.
Right.
And to be honest with you, not every young man is meant to be an alpha, right?
Right.
There has to be an order and a hierarchy system amongst all animals and even amongst us as human beings.
But I think there's sub levels to that though. So
There
like
are
obviously
sub-levels,
like
yeah.
in the world there's alphas,
Mhm.
but in your house you can always be that.
That's true.
You
That's
know what I'm
true.
saying?
There
I think
has
you're
to
always-
be.
There
Yeah,
has to
there
be
has
because
to
like
be,
I
yeah.
have, since I have two daughters and I think about the future.
Mhm.
I'm just like, man, whichever guy is gonna be the next one to lead them,
Mhm.
like he has to have certain things because
Certain qualities, yeah.
yeah, because my women, my daughters are gonna be strong, confident, obviously. Like that's the goal.
Mhm.
But when there's gonna be a time where I don't want my daughter taking out the garbage.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't want my daughter having to do certain things. Like
Mhm.
she just shouldn't have to.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So, or like changing the calling me to come do something, which
Yeah.
was me back when I
Yeah.
was young because I didn't know
Yeah.
how to do shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
My wife's calling her dad like, "Hey, can you
Help him change his flat tire.
can you help him do this because
Yeah.
he don't know how?"
Yeah. No. Yeah.
And that to bring back to the last episode, that's where like that Jordan comes in. Game 6, it's like, nah. If I'm gonna be out here living and having a crib and all that,
Mhm.
then I'm gonna be the best. I'm gonna try to be the best at it.
Right.
I'm gonna learn how to do this shit. And I ain't gonna call nobody. And if,
Right.
obviously, if I gotta call my dad every now and again,
Yeah. Oh
but
yeah.
that's when, cause he's the,
He's got the wisdom.
he's
He's got
got
the
all
knowledge.
the
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah.
But I don't want you to come help me. Just tell me how to do it.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
mess it up. But then if I really mess it up, like I did in some of the stuff here, then he comes and he's like, "This is how you do it."
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you're becoming a man and you got to do all that, just like do it like Jordan, like Jordan would
Oh
do it.
yeah. Oh
Just
yeah. Don't be afraid.
don't be afraid. Just
Don't
go
be
do it.
afraid.
Mess it
Go
up.
for it. Yep.
Mess it
Yeah.
up, and we
Yeah.
we can fix stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I feel about it, man.
So then you brought up your daughters, man, and you talked about how you're gonna want them to try and find someone that's in a sense similar to you, right? And I think one of the things that
I would say I would want them to be better than
well,
whatever I am.
I agree,
Yeah.
but I think realistically, right, um, they're gonna need their own life experience to even know if that man is better than you or has the capacity or
Right.
potential to even be better than you,
Right.
right? And obviously every generation should be getting better and better, men and women,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Which we're in a tough. That's why I say we're in a tough
we
spot
are
right
in
now.
a tough spot. We are in a
But
tough spot
but yeah.
because how do you as a father, like how do you? Well, I think also two things. Number one, and I want to give you credit because you do a really good job of showing your daughters not not the what's depicted in society when it comes to being an alpha or being the leader of your household, which is just I beat my chest and everybody's supposed to listen to what I say. But you have the mental and emotional maturity to also meet your daughters where they're at,
Right.
and to be soft around them.
Right.
And to be vulnerable around them, like you and your oldest daughter. I mean, you guys are like best friends. You guys
Yeah,
have an
that's my
amazing,
best friend. That's my
yeah,
homie.
man. You guys have an amazing relationship, and like for me, seeing it since the beginning and watching
Yeah.
it grow to what it's been now,
Yeah.
and then to know where it's gonna head, and to see you guys grow,
Right.
I love that for you, man, and I'm proud of
I
you
appreciate that, man.
as somebody. Obviously I'm your cousin and everything, but just even man to man, I'm proud of you because that's not something that's easy to do.
Yeah,
you know?
it's tough, man, and that's why I think it comes back to like how we come back full circle is like if we as men just learn to get better, then this modern day nonsense that's going
Would
on
disappear.
would
naturally.
disappear because for as Andrew Tate was saying, that's like for thousands of years it's been man,
Mm-hmm.
but the only difference is we just had to evolve to like how you said,
Mm-hmm.
appreciate what they were doing,
Mm-hmm.
the women were
Mm-hmm.
doing,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll probably be like, all right, as long as you understand that and appreciate it,
Right.
then we're good.
Right.
But if we don't as men, then we're gonna create these women that are like, I don't want to text you, I don't need to text you, I don't need you, I can go find somebody else.
Yeah.
And then now we're just all by ourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. 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 It's a lonely society where
Right.
everybody's with a robot.
Right.
That is not the kind of society that I would want my children to grow up in, and that is definitely not the kind of society that I'm trying to create. And something you just said too, which is something we'll probably have to get into another episode, but it's
Yeah,
just
definitely.
the the interaction between men and women,
Yeah.
right? And how we interact with each other on a relationship level, even in the beginning part, like when
Yeah.
you first start dating, and what men should expect or what they should look for, or how they should vet a woman to see if she's even, because it's one thing it's one thing to just go out here and date and have fun,
Right.
right? And I
Right.
think every young man should go out and experience that, so that way he can know what he likes, what he doesn't like, and what he needs,
Right.
right, from his partner. Because everything needs a balance.
Right.
You gotta have somebody to be your, not necessarily complete polar opposite, but somebody that is strong in areas maybe that you're not, or stronger in areas that you're not, and vice versa.
Right.
And then there's that kind of dating where you're just having fun, and then there's dating with a purpose, dating to find a wife, dating to find the mother of your children,
Right.
right? What do you need to look for in a woman to know she's going
Right.
to be a good mom or she's going to be a good wife? You
Right.
know, what red flags are there, and how to run,
Right. Bro, run
how
for
to
the
run
hills.
when you see when you
Right.
see red flags. And like I said, we'll save that for an
For another one.
entirely another episode. But
Yeah, I think
um,
we covered a lot, man, and I think you know, overall, women are great. We need them.
yeah,
Um,
man, we do.
stay on your hustle, stay on your grind, and then men, we gotta be better, man.
We
We
do.
got we gotta be a little better,
We do.
and I think that'll help, create something better than what we used to have or
No, for
what we
sure,
have now.
for sure, for sure. And we have to hold each other accountable, men, in a good way, in a healthy
Yep.
way, in a way that, because there's this one thing to always be giving your boys shit. I mean, I'm not saying don't mess with your boys and every now and then, but also check in on them, man. Make sure that they're, excuse me, in a good space mentally, emotionally, because obviously we're also seeing a rise of suicide in men.
Yeah.
Because a lot of men can't handle the pressure that we're talking about. They can't handle the responsibility that we're talking about, and that's ultimately why they're taking their lives,
Right.
right? And because we live in a society that tells men to not talk about these things and to
Right.
not deal with these things, men feel like they don't have an outlet. They don't feel like they have a choice,
Right.
And so, uh, look to your friend. If you're a young man that is feeling like the world's caving in on you,
Hit us up.
yeah, hit us up.
Yeah.
Send us an email. Reach out to us, and we're gonna do our best to give you not necessarily fix it or anything like that, but just to give you resources
Yeah.
that could potentially help you out and get you through what you're going through. Because what we do want to remind you of is it's not always going to be a storm. It's not always going to be rain. Eventually, the sunshine will come.
Right.
Right before the sun rises, it's the darkest point, you know,
Right.
in the early morning, and you have to literally believe that you're not always not going to be there, and that it's not always
Right.
going to be like that.
Right.
And if you got the right people around you, man, to help you pull yourself out of it, because we can't do this alone.
Nope.
Whether you're an alpha or beta, whatever you are, you still need your tribe.
Need somebody.
You still need a group of people around you, man, that can hold you accountable and pick you up every now and then when you're
Right.
not Superman.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you're
Right.
just Clark Kent with your glasses on, sitting
Yup.
in an office. You need to be able to lean on your peers and your boys. And
Right.
I would say too, if you're gonna go see a therapist or anything like that, go and see a male therapist or somebody that kind of maybe even looks like you or is culturally like you, so that way they can understand where you're coming from.
Right.
Because I personally have went to therapists and I felt like I wasn't being represented properly
Right.
when I chose a therapist, because I had a female therapist.
Yeah.
And it has nothing against women. It's just I felt like she couldn't relate to being a man and some of the things that I was thinking about or going through at the time.
Right.
So that's why I bring all that back around to going to your homies, man. Going to other men that you respect, older men around you that have more wisdom, that are those black holes of knowledge and wisdom. Go and speak
Right.
to them and talk to them.
Right.
And those men will help you get through those darker periods in your life and help you overall become a better man. And that's all we want to do. That's one of the main reasons why we started this podcast, is to not only get better on a personal level,
Right.
but to also help young men, or anybody for that matter, become a better version of themselves. So
Yep. And if you haven't heard our episode 1, a lot of this ties into developing the right mindset.
yeah.
Go listen to that.
Mm-hmm.
Follow us on social media. Connect with us. Leave a review, comment, and subscribe. And the last thing I'll say is, like my grandma used to say, nothing is forever. So whatever you're in,
It's true.
nothing is forever.
That's true.
So
All right. Thank you guys for watching and listening as always. We'll see you guys on the next episode. And man, this was a really good dialogue.
yeah, it was
You
a good
know,
dialogue.
It was nice to see it all kind of come together, because we had this before the podcast even
Yeah.
started. So to be able to just walk right into it, man, and go and let it flow was awesome, man.
Nice.
All right.
I will see you on
Later,
the next
guys.
episode.
Take care.
Peace.